Hey everyone, I've been meaning to get around to this behind the scenes for quite a while, ever since the video was released, I guess. It felt like a big project because, as you're about to see, there was quite a lot involved in making this one happen. A lot of history to go with the actual song that I wanted to share with you. So this is going to take you down a bit of a rabbit hole. Buckle up. I'll start with the video. I had a gig in Livingstone, Zambia, at Zambia's tourism capital. I don't actually go there a whole lot, just for the odd gig. When I first started performing full-time, I actually did a lot of performances in Livingstone. Me and my dad used to drive for, like 11 hours, get from my hometown to Livingstone to go do fairly regular gigs at the big hotels there for corporates and whatever big events were going on. It's been in the back of my mind for years that I would love to shoot a music video at one of the world's 7 natural wonders, Victoria Falls. Not so easy to do. I knew I'd need permission to shoot in Moziotunya National Park, which is where the falls are situated. I thought, cool, let me start there. I tried contacting multiple government departments through various websites that I find. Not a single one of them bothered to reply. Eventually I saw that a Facebook friend now works for the Zambia Board of Tourism, so I slid into his private messages and asked if he knew how I could go about getting permission to film at the falls. He was like, give me 10 minutes, and sent me a phone number. So I messaged that contact, and they're like, yeah, no problem. Message me when you're in Livingstone and we'll hook you up. I'm already in Zambia, visiting family for a little bit before planning to head to Livingstone, and Vaughn is going to meet me in Livingstone to do the shoot. Now, early on the day, I'm supposed to be flying, so I'm supposed to be up in a couple of hours anyway, but at about 4 a.m., my phone starts buzzing, and I don't know what made me look, but I saw that I had emails from British Airways. I actually ignored it initially, and then I'm like, hold up. I look, and all British Airways flights in the region, all Southern African flights, were cancelled that day. Jump up and I get into travel agent mode. I managed to find another flight leaving in like 2 hours, flying into Zimbabwe rather than into Zambia. So I have to tell Vaughn to get to the airport immediately, and in the meantime I have to try find him transport across the border to come meet me in Zambia. But at that stage it just felt like too much had already gone into planning as far as my flights and our accommodation for the few days we were going to be in Livingstone, costumes, and obviously the music. I thought that I had the permit organized as well at that stage. Anyway, that all worked out, thankfully, and Vaughn arrived safe and sound. I arrived, actually we pretty much arrived at the same time in Livingstone. Cool, so then we spent the best part of, I think it was 2 days, just trying to get the permit. That was meant to be no problem. Nobody was in the office, first of all, that I was directed to. Then nobody knew about it. Then the secretary wasn't around for me to make payment. And at the end of the day, I probably could have got away with not having a permit because nobody asked to see anything, but it was just on the off chance that somebody decided to question us, and I am a goody two-shoes. Not too deep down. In the meantime, with the help of my friend Ian, who I met many years ago at those gigs that I used to perform at, Ian owns and runs Livingstone Crocodile Park and Victoria Falls Castle. He took us off to the extremely remote location overlooking the Batoka Gorge. After that shoot, I honestly wouldn't have been that bleak if we hadn't got the permission after all to shoot at Victoria Falls, because it was just mind-blowing. I mean, we tried to capture it in the video, obviously, but being there was just something else. There's been talk for years now of them turning it into a power station. That entire area that I'm sort of standing on the edge of and overlooking would be filled in and be a dam, which is really crazy to think that the landscape might change that dramatically and we managed to capture it in its current magnificent state. But personally hoping that that never happens, and feel pretty privileged to have got to shoot there. So I think that was a Thursday evening, and it was late on the Friday when I'd pretty much given up hope of that damn permit ever happening, that it actually came through, and we actually got this very basic piece of paper that said I was cool. The falls were showing off full force. You can't really do them justice on camera. So huge, you can't really capture the scale of them. You can't actually literally do it in one shot unless you're really, really, really high up. You have to avoid getting completely soaked, which is totally part of the fun when you go to the falls, is getting soaked. Not so much fun when you're trying to shoot a music video. And then you have to try and avoid tourists who obviously have the right to be there, but either they get in the way of your shots or I'm standing in the way of their view and feel guilty and don't exactly perform very well. It took us pretty much a failed afternoon of trying to shoot and not being happy with any of the shots that we got to realize that we needed to come back really early the next day and beat the traffic, beat the sunshine as well, be done well before 9 a.m. And so that's what we did.
From my brother, it's about 7 a.m. We're trying to beat the light and beat the general mass of tourists that come in a bit.
A big issue that I had to deal with that I've never had to deal with in all my years of making videos was that I couldn't hear anything. Didn't even cross my mind that that would be a problem.
Can't hear. Again. Oh, I love this part.
And I don't know what I was thinking, because Mozi Otonya, which is what the locals call Victoria Falls, literally translates to mean the smoke that thunders. It's so loud. Luckily, I looked down at my case. My trusty in-ear monitors were in my case. So I filmed the whole thing with in-ear monitors in. I actually had a hard time trying to, first of all, while we were filming it, I angled myself so you couldn't actually see the ear that I put the monitor in clearly, but you can actually in a few shots if you look closely and you know what you're looking for. The animals were totally just bonus shots that we got while walking around the hotel and in the park, and I wasn't even sure I was going to use any of that footage initially, but then decided it kind of set the scene pretty well.
I kind of wanted to go with a look that's got no man-made structures in it, so it's quite hard to find spots like that without doing anything stupid. So I think we got it. Freezing, but yeah, worth it.
Right, onto the history of the song. So I was in a band. Some of you might have seen me mention this on Vaughn's birthday the other day, that I was in a band with Vaughn and my bestie Robin, the opera singer, and Antonio on keys, and Adi on double bass, and we were called Jinx. We performed between 2009 and I want to say 2014. Think electro, circus, opera, craziness. We mainly performed at a burlesque supper theatre here in Cape Town and a few other clubs and festivals that was kind of a vibe at the time. Everybody was into this sort of off-the-wall electro swing gypsy jazz vibe. Eventually we kind of just went our separate ways. We're all still best friends, see each other fairly often. I started doing corporates more regularly and more seriously and started getting into making videos, and Robin, she got the lead as Christine in Phantom of the Opera and went off touring the world with the Phantom of the Opera cast, which was amazing. Just a natural end to things. Vaughn actually wrote Land of Freedom for Jinx. It was always my favorite song that we performed, and I've been bugging him for years to give it to me, to let me do a version of it. He finally caved, reworked it for me, and I totally have my sights set on other Jinx songs that I love, that he doesn't know that I have my sights on yet. I'm also trying to convince the band that we need to just record it all and put it out into the world, because there's some really cool stuff that I think deserves to be heard. There's only one video in existence of us performing Land of Freedom as Jinx. Unfortunately, the quality is shockingly bad, but I think you can still kind of get the vibe. You might even recognize the intro melody as sort of main theme in my other song, Blackjack. So as you can see, I've literally been working on Vaughn getting parts of Land of Freedom for years. So I'm going to leave you with the original Land of Freedom by Jinx. I hope that you enjoyed this little behind the scenes look at what it took to make Land of Freedom for you.
When the smoke rises